If you're seeing this, you're standing on the edge of the unimaginable, not because something spectacular is about to explode, but because there are rare moments when everything that came before starts to feel heavy all at once. Nothing has changed drastically on the outside, but decisions feel heavier, time feels shorter, and what once felt acceptable now quietly irritates you. This kind of phase doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with pressure, a silent pressure. The feeling that something big is forming, even without visible signs. And when this stage appears, life doesn't ask if you're ready. It simply brings the next step closer, and you're already standing at its edge. Maybe you've felt it over the past few days, not as an emotional collapse, not as obvious sadness. It's more subtle, a restlessness that appears exactly when everything should feel normal. You lie down tired, but sleep takes longer. Your body wants to shut down. Your mind stays awake, revisiting possibilities, scenarios, choices. Nothing feels urgent, but everything feels important. During the day, you function. You do what needs to be done. You talk, you smile, you handle things. Even so, there's a strange sensation of waiting for something that hasn't arrived yet, as if a part of you has entered a state of alert. You begin to notice small signs. Silence weighs more than it used to. Long conversations drain you faster. What once excited you now feels shallow. It's not disinterest, it's transition. It's the feeling that life is about to change its rhythm. And the most curious part is that no one around you notices. On the outside, everything goes on the same, but on the inside, something clearly is no longer standing still. What you're living through doesn't begin on the outside. Major turning points almost never arrive as visible events. They begin with small internal adjustments that accumulate over time. Decisions you stopped postponing, boundaries you no longer negotiate, thoughts you refuse to keep ignoring. None of this seems significant when seen in isolation, but together, these movements change the way you occupy your own life. It's as if, little by little, you stopped merely reacting and began choosing. And when that happens, reality responds, not with magic, with consequence. The right opportunities begin to recognize posture, not intention. Situations shift because you change how you place yourself within them. That's why this period often feels strange. You're still in the same place, but you're no longer in the same position. And when this internal shift stabilizes, something inevitable begins to happen. Life starts calling you into bigger games. This is the point where the past starts to reorganize itself in your memory. The delays that once felt unfair, the cycles that refused to move forward, the doors that closed when you believed you were ready. Maybe you remember a specific moment, an email that was never answered, a conversation that led nowhere, an opportunity that felt certain and simply disappeared. For a long time, all of this was interpreted as delay, as if you were always one step behind the right timing, as if life had chosen to test your patience more than anyone else's. But now, something shifts in the way you see all of it. You realize those interruptions didn't come to stop you, they came to shape you. While you watched others move ahead quickly, you were learning how to withstand pressure. While some gained speed, you gained structure. The falls didn't just hurt, they taught you where you were fragile. The frustrations didn't just wound you, they forced adjustments you would have avoided if everything had worked out too early. Maybe that's why nothing was simple, because what's forming now required a version of you that didn't yet exist. You needed to learn how to handle silence, waiting, emotional responsibility. You had to understand the cost of wrong choices before being given access to the right ones. And little by little, without even realizing it, you were being prepared, not to arrive quickly, but to arrive whole. That's why this moment doesn't resemble the previous ones. Before, you wanted to move forward. Now, you know how to remain. Before, you chased results. Now, you sustain processes. And when this shift happens, the past stops feeling like a burden. It begins to function as foundation. Everything that once looked like delay starts revealing its true purpose. Nothing was lost. Everything was guiding you to this moment. There is a clear difference between what you lived before and what you're living now. Before, everything seemed to require effort, making things work, trying to understand, forcing yourself to fit into a rhythm that seemed to work for everyone else. Maybe you recognize this in small things, accepting invitations that already drained you, insisting on conversations that consumed your energy, saying yes simply to avoid friction. Today, something has changed. You no longer force yourself as much. You no longer knock on doors that demand humiliation. You no longer chase validation the way you once did. Your choices have become quieter, and precisely because of that, more definitive. You begin to sense when something isn't meant for you. And, for the first time, you respect that, without needing to explain yourself. Before, you reacted to circumstances. Now, you choose how to position yourself in front of them. And this shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Because life doesn't respond to desire, it responds to presence. When your energy stops coming from lack and begins coming from direction, the world reacts differently. Not because the universe decided to reward you, but because you stop moving in misalignment. You begin to say less and sustain more. Fewer promises, more consistency. And it's at this point that the movement reverses. Instead of you chasing life, life begins to meet you in the right places, not with ease, but with coherence. And that marks the beginning of something that doesn't happen for everyone. The phase where the next step no longer demands desperate effort, only courage. The courage not to go back. From there on, something curious begins to happen. Without announcement, without sudden turning points, the world around you starts responding differently. People begin treating you in another way, even if they can't explain why. Some draw closer, others drift away naturally. Conversations change tone. They become more direct, less explanatory. Doors that once seemed locked start opening quietly. You don't become more important, you become clearer, and clarity changes everything. Opportunities appear from unlikely places. Invitations arrive without excessive effort. Encounters that seem like coincidence carry too much information to be ignored. None of this happens because you asked for it. It happens because your posture changed. You speak less, you observe more, you act with precision instead of anxiety. And that creates a rare kind of alignment. Not the kind that promises ease, but the kind that reduces waste. You begin to be in the right place, at the right time, with the right energy. And when that repeats a few times, life begins to accelerate. Not chaotically, but as if everything were finally pointing in the same direction. With movement comes pressure. When things begin to align, the level rises, and everything that rises demands more. Decisions stop being simple. Mistakes become more expensive. What once could be improvised now requires awareness. You may notice this in subtle details. A reply you think twice before sending. A yes that weighs more than it used to. A small choice that now seems to carry too much consequence to be made on autopilot. That's when doubt appears. Not as fear of failure, but as fear of sustaining what is growing. You understand that it's not enough to arrive. You have to maintain. Responsibility increases. Choices become more visible. Their impact spreads faster than you would like. You begin to feel the weight of someone who can no longer pretend not to know, because now you see patterns, anticipations, consequences, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Ignoring this doesn't bring peace. It creates inner conflict, and this pressure doesn't come to paralyze you. It comes to test you, not to see if you're capable of growing, but whether you're willing to inhabit the space you've begun to occupy. Many people retreat exactly here, not for lack of ability, but from fear of their own potential, because growth doesn't demand only strength, it demands the maturity to continue. When everything stops being symbolic and starts becoming serious, the unimaginable doesn't appear all at once. It begins forming in silence. Small advances that seem too simple to draw attention. Quiet wins. Results that, for now, don't impress anyone. But something shifts in the rhythm. What once took months begins to happen in weeks. What required insistence starts responding with precision. You notice it in details that are hard to explain. A message that arrives faster than expected. A positive reply where there used to be silence. A decision that unlocks several things at once. You realize you're not just moving forward, you're accelerating. The pieces begin connecting naturally. One choice leads to the next. One opportunity opens the path to another. Nothing feels forced. There is effort, yes, but there is no longer resistance. It's as if the path has finally recognized your presence, and that changes your relationship with time. You stop waiting for external signs, because internally, you can already feel that something has crossed the point of no return. It's not the great breakthrough yet, but it's no longer the beginning. Something is being built, and now, continuing has stopped being an option. It has become the only possible direction. Because the unimaginable doesn't happen by impulse. It happens when everything you've become meets the exact moment. To manifest, there comes a moment when you realize nothing happened in a dramatic way. No explosion, no announcement, but something became impossible to ignore. You no longer fit into the life you were living before. The routine begins to feel tight. Certain environments start to feel too small. Some conversations simply no longer reach you, not out of arrogance, but because of an internal shift in frequency. You begin to recognize yourself differently. Your choices align with who you've become, not with who you used to be. People who were always close begin to see you with different eyes. Some drift away in silence, others draw nearer with curiosity. None of this is conflict, it's transition. You understand that you didn't lose anything, you simply crossed over. The old comfort no longer protects, it limits. Going back would require a kind of denial you can no longer sustain, and the clarity that has emerged no longer allows pretending. You know too much to return, you feel too much to settle, and when this awareness settles in, something becomes clear. There is no return path. For someone who has crossed this threshold, there is only continuity, moving forward, or betraying yourself. If you made it this far, that already says something about you. Not everyone stays. When the noise fades, and silence begins demanding answers, this moment in your life doesn't ask for urgency. It also offers no guarantees. It asks for presence. Everything that came before brought you exactly here. Every wait that felt too long, every adjustment no one saw, every time you held steady when you could have retreated, none of it was random. You were not late, you were not lost, and you did not arrive too early. You arrived at the exact point where going back costs more than continuing forward. The unimaginable does not begin with an external event. It begins the instant you realize you can no longer pretend you don't know. Maybe nothing changes tomorrow. Maybe no one notices yet, but something has already shifted. The direction has changed, and directions don't ask for permission. From here on, there is no longer waiting for the right moment. The moment has already passed through you, because now you are no longer preparing.